fell out of her bun, and her hair cascaded over her shoulders while the pencil clattered to the floor. Brian smiled and actually let a giggle escape before he covered his mouth. Good, Kate thought. She leaned closer to her little patient. You're not here just for talking in class, Brian. If you were just talking in class, then you'd be sent to the principal's office, right? Brian's adorable face gazed up at Kate with terrified eyes. Are you worse than the principal? Kate felt such empathy for the boy at that moment that she was tempted to take his hand in hers, but he was so anxious that she feared he might shy away. This kind of work was so delicate, like dealing with Venetian spun glass, where the slightest jar could shatter it, and she often felt so clumsy. Nobody is worse than the principal, Kate said. Then she smiled and winked at Brian. None of the kids at Andrew Country Day liked Dr. McKay, and, as so often was the case, their instincts were good. Do I look as bad as Dr. McKay? Kate asked, feigning shock. Brian shook his head vigorously. Well, thank goodness. Anyway, I do something different. You aren't here to be punished. You didn't do anything wrong. But everybody hears you talking, even though you're not talking to anybody. She watched as Brian's eyes filled with tears. I'll be quieter, he promised. Kate wanted to scoop him up onto her lap and let him cry as long as he needed to. After all, his mother had just died of cancer, and he was still so very young. Kate's own mother had passed away when she was 11, and that had been almost unbearable. She dared to take one of the boy's hands in hers. I don't want you to be quiet, Brian. You do what you need to, but I'd like to know what you're saying. Brian shook his head again. His eyes changed from tearful to frightened. I can't tell. Then he turned his face away from her. He mumbled something else, and Kate managed to hear only one word, but it was enough. Go slow, she told herself. Go very, very slowly and casually. You're doing magic? Brian, face still averted, nodded but didn't speak. Kate was already afraid she had gone too far. She held her breath. Then, after a long moment, she lowered her own voice to a whisper and asked, Why can't you tell? Because, Brian started, then it burst out of him. Because it's magic, and you can't tell magic or your wish won't come true. Like birthday candles, everybody knows that. He got up and walked to the corner of the room. Kate actually felt relieved. The boy wasn't schizophrenic. He was caught in a typical childhood trap, total powerlessness combined with hopeless longing and guilt, a toxic cocktail. Kate gave him a moment. She didn't want him to feel trapped, yet he shouldn't be alone with this pain. She approached him slowly, the way you might move toward a strange puppy. She put her hand on the little boy's shoulder. Your wish is about your mother, isn't it? She said, her voice as neutral as she could manage to keep it. Brian didn't need any of her emotions. He needed space for his own. Isn't that right? Brian looked up at her and nodded. His face registered a cautious relief. The dreadful burdens of childhood secrets always touched Kate. Though she was a long-lapsed Catholic, she still remembered the power and release of the confessional. She had to serve this child well. What are you wishing for? She asked, her voice as gentle as she could make it. Brian began to cry. His face, usually so pale, flushed deep rose. Speaking through his tears, he said, I thought if I just said Mommy come back 1,000,000 times, that she would be back. He sobbed and put his face against Kate's skirt. But it isn't working. I think I've said it 2,000,000 times. Kate's eyes filled with tears. She took a deep breath. She could feel the heat of Brian's face through the thin fabric of her skirt. The hell with professional detachment. She scooped Brian into her arms and carried him over to one of the chairs. The boy nestled against her. After a time, he stopped crying, but his silent neediness was even sadder. They sat for a few moments, but Kate knew their session was nearly completed, and she had to speak. Oh, Brian, I am so sorry. But magic doesn't work. I wish it did. The doctors did everything they could.